What's good, y'all? I hope you guys are having a great day. In today's video, we're continuing our series on beating GMs with the Hippo defense. Here I'm playing as white in a bullet game against Grandmaster Alavkin, and I play this move of pawn to G3. The usual 1, 2, and 3. I like to prioritize kingside development when I'm playing the Hippo. Not the only way to do it, but that's how I like to play it. Bishop G7 here, I go with E3. And we have usual type of moves going into that Hippo setup. Now with the move of Bishop B7, this is an interesting moment. Trying to figure out if B3 is safe. Now in this case, it is. You do got to be careful with a bishop aimed towards your rook. And Alavkin is really kind of copying our setup in a sense. We have two fianchettoed bishops there. Of course, we haven't even fianchettoed ours yet, so that's not really copying. But this is a challenging setup for the Hippo player to go against. Now in this case, B3 is totally fine, and we'll get into that. But you do want to be careful in general. Right? Let's say we play a move like F4, we play a move like G4. Here, B3 losing, dead losing position. Why is that? Well, knight takes G4. If we take the knight, we lose our rook. If we save our rook, let's say we play C3. Let's say we play a move like rook to B1. Knight takes E3. This is resignable for the white side. I mean, just absolutely terrible for us. The queen's trapped. We're about to lose our queen. And yeah, so with the move of pawn to B3, let's just say for a moment, like let's just change the position a little bit. Let's just say A6 and bishop B2. Let's say we fianchettoed that bishop. We then played F4 and G4 and all that kind of stuff. Well, here, knight takes G4 is also winning. If we capture the bishop, knight takes E3 is played with tempo against our queen, also attacking the hanging bishop. And if we take the knight, we lose our bishop on B2. Either case, we end up down material. So you do want to be careful, but going back to bishop B7 there, I am able to play B3 because there's no way for black to take advantage of this at the moment. There's just not. I mean, if you play knight E4, we can actually, on top of just playing rook B1 and having a slightly worse position as white, we have a better game with the move of D takes E4. Always look at that in these kind of spots. Can you just take the knight? Now, sure, you lose your rook, but here we play C3, and the bishop is trapped. We're looking towards bishop A3, attacking that minor piece. And if we see a move like D takes E4, for example, just to show you an idea, bishop A3, that bishop is trapped. And yeah, I mean, C5, we can snap that bishop off, snatch it right off, and yeah, we're in good shape. With the move of pawn to B3, let's say we see knight G4. Well, here, we could just play rook B1, and the pawn's not on F4. The pawn's not on F4 there. So, I mean, you know, knight takes E3 is just not going to do much. We're very well protected in this kind of case. But we could take on G4. That's the best thing we have, followed by the move of D4, trapping this bishop again and looking towards bishop A3. We're down the exchange, but that bishop on A1 is trapped, and it's not feeling like it has a lot of options. With the move of B3, let's say black played a more quiet move. Well, here, I kind of like rook B1. Just get your rook out of the way. You can play bishop B2. Now, of course, this could result in you having a fianchettoed rook, which obviously isn't super active. It's not like your rook's a great piece here. But they also gave up their bishop on their king side. Their dark squared bishop, their dark squares are weak. Our dark squares are weak. I'll take the trade there because of the fact that their king is weakened. Is our king weakened by these dark square weaknesses? Nope. So I'm good with that trade. With the move bishop B7, again, I play the move B3. In the game, we have knight BD7, and I now continue with bishop to B2. We successfully got our bishop to that spot. C5 is played, and here I played A3. In a longer game, well, at least I hope I wouldn't play this move of A3. I don't recommend this if you see the pawn on C5, but I played this because it's a bullet game. I've only used 7 seconds, but in general, if you see the pawn on C5, A3 doesn't really make sense because B4 here is typically not going to be the best option. But all right, we see the move of pawn to E5, and now I castle kingside. I play the move of rook A2. Whole idea being I want to get this queen to A1, forming a battery ram along this diagonal. If you're ever playing the Hippo and you're in a spot where it's like, gosh, I have my Hippo set up, sometimes there's a very straightforward game plan. Sometimes there's not. In that case, getting the queen to the corner can be a great idea. And I talk about different ways to do that in my over 6-hour course on the Hippo. If you're interested in that, I'll leave the link to that down in the description below and down in the pinned comment as well. But here we have the move of D4 from black. And you can go with either taking the bishop on B7 and then playing E4, or by playing E4. The engine doesn't really seem to care much which one you do. I personally kind of like E4. Now, I know that this bishop isn't super active, and maybe it seems like this bishop has a little bit more activity at the moment, but I don't think this bishop is all that great either. And this bishop, sure, it's not super active, but it is a good defensive piece, especially as we start to launch towards the king side, which is what I plan on doing. Here I play the move of pawn to f4. f5 is played. And this is a very rare moment where in this kind of pawn structure, c3 is the best move. I don't play it. In fact, really, when I see this kind of structure, I don't even really consider c3 much because it's so rare that that's the best idea. One thing to keep in mind, though, that I was kind of thinking about when analyzing this game with the move of c3, why is it okay here? Well, usually it's not because black can capture. They often have a rook on this file. They often have a knight ready to pounce in. They often have a queen looking at that spot. But here, is anything looking at d4? Not directly. I mean, your pawns are, but they obviously can't jump into that spot. So, okay, we play a move like bishop takes c3. How is black going to get a piece into there? I mean, if you play knight b8, knight c6, knight d4, that's going to take a while. You could also, get your e-knight there, maybe at some point. Maybe get it to c7, get the queen out of the way, e6, d4. But that's going to take a long time. And if e takes f4, we can capture back with our pawn, playing very solidly here. If the pawn captures again, we can yet again take with our pawn. We got pawns side by side, wiping out half of the 5th rank. This is a passed pawn on e4. And yeah, black can take on c3, capture on f4, and this line here following knight c4 results in the engine saying that we're down a pawn, but we have adequate compensation. We have compensation here. We have this idea of rook to f2, attacking the queen. We already have the open d-file. Our knights are very active here. A lot more natural, in all honesty, than black's knights. Yeah, I mean, this is apparently, I'm not going to sit here and say I even love this position much, but apparently this is dead even. I quickly wanted to mention that I am giving out private chess lessons for those of you interested in taking your game to the next level. Chess is a hard game. There's a lot of different areas. I've had students want to work on something specific. Players reaching out going, hey, I want to work on the hippopotamus defense. I want to get better at the hippo. I've had students go, hey, I want to work on the endgame, calculation, tactics, whatever it may be. I've had other students that go, hey, I actually don't really know what I need to work on, but I'm just trying to improve. I want to hit this certain ELO range or this certain title or whatever it may be. And yeah, I mean, chess is a very fun game. It does take a lot of work and a lot of focus. I love to work with students to assess their strengths and weaknesses and look to turn those weaknesses into strengths, as well as give them a curriculum, in which case they can work on and work with to improve their game as a whole. If you are interested in private lessons, make sure to check out the description below. You can reach out there, and there's no strings attached. There's no strings attached if you want to reach out and just talk about, if this is something that would be beneficial for you or not. And if you do decide to get lessons, I look forward to hanging out and, yeah, just chopping up some chess with you and helping you improve your game. Let's now head back to the main video. With the move of f5, I instead play bishop to c1. When I see this kind of locked up pawn structure, I often get my bishop back to its starting spot so that it can become an aggressive and attacking piece on the king side. I don't want my bishop here stuck there forever, just looking at a pawn. Let's get that bishop activated. Knight d6 is played. I end up capturing on e5, and now playing the move of knight f4, throwing my knight into this spot. Now black takes on e4. Alavkin takes on e4, and this allows me to play knight e6. Right, knight e6, attacking the queen, attacking the rook. I don't find that move. And in all honesty, I'm not even sure I like it that much. Now, sure, it is a fork in a sense, but then black throws in a check. They could play queen to c8. Sure, we can take on e4, but black really wants to take that pawn on g3. How do they do that? By removing the defender. Get rid of that defender. Even if we take with the bishop, black can take again, then capture on g3. I don't love this position for white, like at all. So, knight e6 there is a move that the engine looks at, but I personally like knight takes e4, and the engine doesn't seem to care too much, really, when you really put it on depth, when you really analyzing which one you play. So I just go with the move knight takes e4 there. The knight captures back. I now take with my d-pawn. I capture back with the d-pawn. Bishop takes f4. Now, usually in this kind of instance, we would want to take with our pawn. We have pawns side by side, but I think in this kind of position here, we don't have the pawn on d3. We don't have a lot of pieces on the board. Our rook is out of the action. Black just has a lot better activity. They could play a move like knight f6 going after that e4 pawn, and we're in an uncomfortable spot. So for some reason, bishop takes f4 just felt natural. I honestly thought that this was a mistake because it's so rare that not taking with a pawn if you have a pawn on e4 It's just so rare that that's not the best option that I thought this was a mistake, but apparently bishop takes f4 is the best move. And in this case, it also makes sense. You're attacking the queen, you're getting a tempo there. Knight e5 is played, and here c3 is what the engine likes, and it makes sense. c3, going after that pawn. If black wants to take, we could play queen e1 or queen c1 and go after that guy. I don't really see how black is going to hang on to their material advantage here. And if rook a d8, for example, we can play rook d2. And if you capture on c3, we're now winning. Bishop takes e5. Great tactic here. If you want to take on f1, right? I mean, if you throw on a check there, bishop takes f1 there is the way to go. Capture back with the bishop. You also have check ideas in that kind of case. You're still attacking the queen. Let's say here we see a move like queen takes e5. Well, we can capture the rook on d8. If you capture on d2 with your rook, we have bishop takes c7. What do we do if you take on f1? We're not taking with the bishop or the king. We're getting our queen out of danger. And of course, if you take on d1, we capture back. Here we're just up a piece for a pawn. We're winning. But okay, knight e5 is played. I instead play the move of queen to e2. We have queen e7. I now get my rook back into this action, right? The rook on a2 is not doing much there. Let's get it back into this game. I end up centralizing it. d3 is played. I capture. The knight takes back. Rook d1, asking that knight, where do you want to go? The knight captures on f4, and here I ended up taking with the g-pawn. I feel a lot more comfortable with these pawns side by side because we have a bishop and a queen defending the pawn on e4. You only have so many pieces left, and this pawn on e4 is also a passed pawn. So the move of e5 is something that we can look at. If a move like rook takes d1, which is what we see in the game, we don't want to take with the rook because then we just lose our f4 pawn. This isn't good. So I end up capturing with the queen. Now, some of you might be wondering, wait, why doesn't black just take on e4? Good question. Black's up a pawn, and if we take on e4, we're losing, but can this bishop move if we have something on the e-file? Nope. So we play queen e2. That bishop is now pinned to the queen. If you move that bishop, you're going to lose your queen. If you defend it, all right, let's just add more pressure. And even if you play something like queen f7, we could take on e4. You can capture on f4, but we now have bishop d5 with check, with tempo against the king, and we're going to be able to snatch off that rook. With rook takes d1, I capture again with my queen, and here we see the move of c4. Whole idea that black is really trying to unleash this queen against the a3 spot. Now here, queen d4 is the best move. I missed this, and queen d4 is a really nice option because this queen on a3 is active. It's looking at queen c5 with check. It's looking at queen e3 with check. That queen on c5 attacking the pawn on c4. The queen on e3 attacking f4, attacking e4, as well as this bishop. In chess, we want to activate our pieces and not allow our opponent's pieces to activate more. Queen d4 does a great job of activating our queen and also deactivating black's queen, which is what we want. But I instead play the move pawn to e5. This is not a great idea because queen e3 with check was played. Queen c5, I guess, is even better, but queen e3 is played here. I almost played king h1. Thankfully, I didn't because queen takes h3, and my bishop can't take because that bishop is pinned. So, yeah, we got to move the king, and we end up getting checkmated, so I didn't go with that. I instead played the move of king to h2. Okay, rook f2 is also disastrous because of rook takes f4. But okay, I play king h2, the only move that I can really play to survive. I end up capturing back with the king. Rook takes f4 is played. And here I end up throwing in a check, throwing in another check, taking the rook, and now playing e6. Now, being up a pawn in the endgame is a huge deal. I talk about it all the time. But when you have a queen endgame with nothing but queens on the board, I would say the biggest thing that matters is which pawn is closest to the other side. Right? Queens are very bad at stopping pawns when there's another queen. Why is that? Because the queen can very easily carve out the pathway. This queen on g7, for example, it's covering e8 and e7. Can this queen get to one of those spots? No. I mean, they're both covered. Now, let's just pretend these were bishops. Could black stop that pawn? Yeah. They could get their bishop here. Boom, they're good. Right? But queens are very good at leading a pawn in a piece in a way that no other piece can, just because of their activity. And yeah, this queen is unable to get in the way of the pawn. We see queen e4 with check. And here, black should really think about, you know, queen e3 check, queen e5 check, just continuing to check my king. Queen e3 was played. Queen e2 was played, but then we see queen takes c4. And black is up material here, but following e7, you're up material as black, but which pawn is closer? Our pawn is way closer than your extra two pawns are. I mean, this is just winning for the white side. My plan now is to very slowly get my king, you know, to the other side of the board, to a spot where it can get, you know, nice shelter. I end up playing king f2, bringing my king to e2 now, and I just start throwing my king towards that side of the board. Bring the king over, bring the king over. And here, black runs out of checks. Because of their own pawns, my king has found protection. Queen e1 is played. I now promote, and yeah, I only have about 9 seconds left, so this game kind of, you know, obviously felt a little bit crazy. I'm just trying to, you know, trade off queens or start checking their king as fast as I can, but this finished out pretty quickly. So not a perfect game at all. None of my games are, but I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it in terms of how to play the Hippo. Every rule has exceptions, and this is one of those games where, do we generally take with a pawn towards the center if we have a pawn on e4? Yes, right? You know, this is one of those games where, do we generally play c3 in that kind of structure? No. But black's pieces were so strangely set up that playing c3 there was actually totally fine. I'll see you on the next one. To finish out, I wanted to give a big shout out to my Patreon community, specifically Walter, Rob, Steve, Rob, Ray, and Roger, and the rest of my Patreon community. Thank you guys for your support. If you haven't checked out the Patreon already, there are some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member. I look forward to seeing you over there, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.